Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Like fine wine, time doesn't just age a Sigma male, it conspires with him. Most men fear getting older. Studies even show that over 60% of men peak in their 20s, only to watch their relevance fade with each passing year. But the Sigma male is an anomaly. He doesn't sour with time, he sharpens. He doesn't chase youth. Youth eventually circles back to him, wondering how he outplayed the clock. The truth is, the Sigma male doesn't age in the ordinary sense. He ferments. He distills every scar, every betrayal, every late-night silence into something more potent. By the time people realize what he's become, he's already 10 steps deeper, richer, and harder to forget. And let's be honest, while others panic over wrinkles and hairlines, the Sigma is probably sipping his coffee thinking, if I get any better with age, people are going to need an ID just to handle me. This is the wine effect. The hidden transformation every Sigma male goes through, not in the glare of youth, but in the shadows of time. And once you understand it, you'll see why he doesn't just get older, he becomes unforgettable. Number 1. They become addictive in retrospect. People rarely realize the value of a Sigma male when he's right in front of them. At first glance, he doesn't demand attention, doesn't flash his worth, and doesn't beg for recognition. He blends in almost too well. In fact, his quiet nature often makes people underestimate him. They think he's just another man in the background, someone easy to dismiss or overlook. But that's where the twist comes in, because a Sigma's impact doesn't always hit immediately. It lingers, it grows, it creeps up on people long after he's gone, until they realize he's the one person they can't seem to forget. This is the addictive nature of the Sigma male. He isn't sugar-coated or instantly sweet like the personalities most people gravitate to. He's layered, subtle, and complex in ways that take time to fully understand. And because he doesn't reveal everything about himself at once, he leaves gaps in people's minds, mysteries they can't quite solve. Those unanswered questions, that sense of unfinished business, stick like a thorn under the skin. You may move on, you may even convince yourself he didn't matter, but the thought of him comes back when you least expect it. What makes him unforgettable isn't just what he does, but what he doesn't do. He doesn't chase, he doesn't over-explain, and he doesn't beg to be liked. That absence of neediness is so rare in a world where everyone is desperate for validation, it burns itself into people's memories. When they compare him to others, the clingy, the predictable, the overexposed, he suddenly stands out even more. He becomes the standard they measure others against, whether they admit it or not. By the time people finally understand his worth, it's usually too late. He's already moved on, already gone silent, already living on his own terms. That's what makes him addictive in retrospect. He doesn't wait around to be appreciated. You realize too late that what you dismissed as ordinary was actually extraordinary. That realization stings because, unlike others, Sigma males don't come back once they leave. It's that delayed recognition, the haunting aftertaste, that makes the Sigma male unforgettable. He doesn't just pass through your life, he lingers in the background of your mind, resurfacing again and again. And the more time passes, the more you realize how rare he really was. That's the wine effect in its purest form. His true value only deepens with distance and time. Number 2. Their past doesn't expire, it enriches. A Sigma male doesn't look at his past as something to run from or bury. He carries it, but not like a burden, more like a collection of flavors that make him richer over time. Every season of his life leaves a mark. The friendships that taught him trust and betrayal, the heartbreaks that taught him resilience, the failures that sharpened his focus. None of it disappears, and none of it loses value. Instead of decaying into regret, those experiences age with him, adding depth and weight to who he becomes. While many people treat their past like spoiled milk, something to toss out before it stinks, Sigma males treat theirs like a reserve stock. The harder moments don't expire, they ferment. The good ones don't fade into nostalgia. They stay alive as reminders of what's possible. Even his mistakes don't rot into shame. They transform into reference points that quietly guide his next move. That's why he often seems unshakable. He isn't scrambling to erase where he's been, he's using it like armor. This is part of why he grows sharper with time. Most men get stuck replaying their past with bitterness, but a Sigma doesn't wallow. He extracts lessons, keeps the wisdom, and discards the waste. That process gives him a kind of layered presence. People sense there's history in him, but it doesn't weigh him down. It makes him harder to fool, harder to manipulate, and harder to replace. And here's the twist. His past also gives him an edge others don't have. Because he doesn't deny it, he can navigate situations most men collapse under. He's been broken but not destroyed. He's been disappointed but not derailed. And every trace of what he's lived through leaves him more unpredictable, more resilient, and more interesting. The Sigma male doesn't get washed clean by time. He gets textured by it. Every era of his life, childhood, heartbreak, struggle, victory, stays alive in him. Not as baggage, but as richness. He doesn't expire with age, he compounds. That's why the longer you know him, the more you realize there's no end to what he carries, and why he feels deeper and harder to forget than anyone else. Number 3. They are rare because they refuse mass production. Sigma males stand out not because they're trying to be different, but because they refuse to be manufactured into something they're not. Most men bend themselves to fit into social molds, echoing whatever trend is popular, whatever opinion is safe, or whatever image makes them look acceptable. They mass-produce their personalities the same way cheap wine is bottled in bulk, predictable, shallow, and easy to consume. Sigma males reject that path entirely. They don't dilute themselves for approval, and they don't bend to fit the taste of the crowd. Their rarity comes from the fact that they're handcrafted by experience, not by culture's assembly line. Every decision, every scar, every victory shapes them in ways that can't be replicated. There's no template, no formula, and no shortcut to becoming one. That makes them harder to understand, harder to categorize, and impossible to clone. You can copy an alpha's confidence or a beta's submission, but you can't fake the kind of depth that comes from years of forging your own path against resistance. This refusal to be mass-produced also explains why so few people encounter real Sigmas. Most men chase acceptance, not authenticity. They'd rather fit in than stand apart, even if it means sacrificing their true selves. A Sigma male would rather walk alone, misunderstood and underestimated, than sell himself cheap just to belong. That choice immediately puts him in a different category, scarce, rare, and increasingly valuable as time goes on. And like rare wine, the scarcity isn't artificial. It's not a performance, not some branding exercise. It's simply the byproduct of refusing to compromise. That authenticity is what makes him irreplaceable. People can try to mimic his style or his silence, but without the substance behind it, it's empty. You can mass-produce confidence, bravado, or charm, but you cannot mass-produce authenticity. This is why the Sigma male grows in demand as time passes. In a world filled with copy-paste personalities, he is proof that the unreplicated still exists. He is rare not because he tries to be, but because mass production was never an option for him. That refusal to be diluted is what makes him both intimidating and unforgettable. The kind of presence you can't manufacture, only encounter. Number 4. Their appeal is time-delayed, not instant. Sigma males don't hit you with instant fireworks. They're not the loudest voice in the room, not the man desperate to impress with quick charm or surface-level confidence. In fact, many people dismiss them at first, assuming there's nothing remarkable there. That's because their appeal isn't designed for instant consumption. It's slow, steady, and layered. They're the type of men you only begin to notice once the noise of others fades, and by then, their presence is already seeping into you in ways you didn't expect. This time-delayed effect is what separates them from flashy personalities, those who rely on shock value, exaggerated confidence, or trend-chasing attention burn bright but brief. They peak quickly, draw everyone in, and then collapse under the weight of predictability. A Sigma male doesn't play that game. He doesn't flood you with everything he is at once. Instead, he reveals himself in fragments through subtle actions, rare moments of insight, or small displays of strength when others fall short. Each encounter adds a new layer, making you realize there's more to him than you first thought. What makes this especially intriguing is that it builds curiosity. People start wondering how they missed him before. Why didn't they notice that calm confidence? Why didn't they see that sharpness hiding under the quiet? That slow burn is addictive because by the time you finally see the full picture, it's already too late. He's carved a space in your mind without ever trying. The Sigma's appeal also lasts longer because it isn't based on gimmicks or showmanship. It's rooted in authenticity, and authenticity doesn't expire. The qualities that seemed subtle at first, his independence, his silence, his restraint, become more magnetic the longer you're exposed to them. Unlike others who exhaust their charm quickly, the Sigma becomes more interesting with time, almost like the story you never finish reading. This is why people often circle back to Sigma males, even after ignoring them initially. At first, they may not stand out, but with distance and reflection, they become unforgettable. That delayed recognition is powerful because it means his appeal doesn't fade, it compounds. And when someone finally realizes his value, they usually wonder how they ever overlooked him in the first place. Number 5. They reject cheap pairings. Sigma. Males don't settle for shallow company, no matter how convenient or tempting it may seem in the moment. They've learned that surrounding themselves with mediocrity is the fastest way to dilute their own energy, so they refuse it outright. Just as fine wine doesn't belong next to junk food, they know their presence doesn't pair with people who lack depth, ambition, or authenticity. To them, the wrong company is more dangerous than being alone, and they won't compromise their standards just to fill empty space. This rejection of cheap pairings often makes them appear distant or selective, but it's really about protection. They've seen how quickly the wrong crowd can drain focus, stunt growth, or derail a man's purpose. While others collect people like trophies or keep shallow relationships for convenience, the Sigma operates differently. He doesn't need filler friends, fake allies, or relationships built on temporary thrills. If the connection isn't real, if it doesn't hold weight, he'd rather walk away. What makes this especially powerful is that it isn't driven by arrogance. Sigma males don't think they're too good for people. They simply recognize that energy is finite, and giving it to the wrong individuals is self-sabotage. They're ruthless about this boundary because they know mediocrity is contagious. Spend enough time around people with no vision, no discipline, or no integrity, and eventually you start lowering your own standards. A Sigma refuses to risk that infection. By rejecting cheap pairings, they preserve their quality. Their silence stays sharp because it isn't polluted by noise. Their insights carry weight because they haven't been watered down by echo chambers. Their presence feels rare because it isn't scattered across dozens of meaningless connections. This makes the relationships they do keep far more valuable, selective, deep, and often life-changing for the people who earn them. The irony is that this approach often makes them even more sought after. In a world where most people give themselves away too easily, the Sigma's refusal creates scarcity. His attention feels valuable because it isn't handed out cheaply. People sense that if he allows them close, it's because they've proven themselves worthy, not because he was bored or desperate. That's the essence of rejecting cheap pairings. He'd rather guard his energy and stand alone than waste himself on mediocrity. And that choice, over time, makes him stand out as someone who can't be bought, lured, or diluted. Number 6. They age into dangerous calmness. Most men grow restless as they age. Some become bitter, clinging to what they've lost. Others become insecure, desperately trying to prove they still matter. But Sigma males take a very different path. The older they get, the calmer they become, so calm it can feel unsettling to those around them. It isn't the soft calm of someone who has given up, it's the sharp calm of someone who has stopped fearing loss. That difference makes it dangerous because nothing destabilizes a person more than being around someone who cannot be rattled. This calmness isn't accidental, it comes from years of surviving storms alone. Every heartbreak, betrayal, and failure has already tested him. He's been disappointed, abandoned, underestimated, and still kept moving. With each trial, he learned something that most people never do. Panic never changes the outcome. By the time he grows older, he carries that truth in his bones. Where others shake, he stays steady. Where others fight to hold on, he knows when to let go. That poise can be intimidating because people don't know what to do with someone who cannot be baited. The calm also signals freedom. He has nothing to prove anymore. No need to compete for validation, no urge to show off, no desperation to win approval. That absence of need is unnerving in a world where most people are driven by it. His silence feels heavier, his pauses feel sharper, and his decisions seem colder, not because he's unfeeling, but because he doesn't cling the way others do. He isn't afraid to lose a job, a relationship, or even an entire social circle. He's already learned that survival doesn't depend on any of those things. This is where the danger in his calmness shows itself. People realize they cannot manipulate him with fear, because he doesn't fear the same things they do. They cannot threaten him with loss, because he has already made peace with it. They cannot destabilize him with drama, because he refuses to feed it. And when someone like that enters a room, it shifts the entire dynamic. His calm presence exposes everyone else's chaos. A Sigma male doesn't age into weakness. He ages into composure so solid it unsettles anyone still scrambling for control. That's why his calmness is dangerous. It isn't the end of his fire. It's the mark of a man who has already faced everything people fear most and walked away untouched. Number 7. They ferment their pain into power. Sigma males don't let pain sit and rot inside them. Where most people allow betrayal, heartbreak, or failure to eat away at their confidence, they take that same pain and put it through a kind of inner alchemy. Every disappointment becomes raw material, every humiliation gets broken down, and every setback is stored until it can be used as fuel. Nothing stays raw for long in them because they refuse to let wounds stay open. Instead, they ferment their pain into something stronger, authority, resilience, and depth that can't be faked. This process isn't loud or dramatic. They don't announce how much they've suffered or wear their scars for pity. They process quietly in the background while everyone else assumes they've moved on like anyone else. But the truth is, they're not just moving on, they're transforming. That quiet work makes them harder, sharper, and wiser with every blow life throws. By the time people see them again, the very things that were meant to break them have become their armor. It's this transformation that gives them an edge others lack. Most men repeat the same mistakes because they never learn from their pain. They numb it, deny it, or let it define them. A Sigma male refuses all three. He extracts lessons, he absorbs the sting, and then he rebuilds himself with the memory of what it taught him. That process gives him a calm confidence in situations that would paralyze others. He's not fearless, but he knows he's already survived worse, and that knowledge makes him dangerous. This is why Sigma males often grow more powerful with time. The longer they live, the more they accumulate, not just experiences, but refinements forged from struggle. Every betrayal that should have left them bitter instead sharpens their ability to read people. Every humiliation that could have broken their spirit instead teaches them not to rely on external validation. Every setback that should have ended their progress instead becomes proof of their resilience. They don't waste pain, they recycle it. And that's why they carry quiet authority wherever they go. People can sense it, not because the Sigma brags about what he's endured, but because his presence communicates it. He is living proof that pain, when processed instead of avoided, doesn't weaken a man. It ferments into something far more powerful, a strength that nothing and no one can counterfeit. Number 8, they are never tasted twice the same way. A Sigma male is never experienced the same way twice, and that's what makes him so hard to categorize. People often try to pin him down, quiet, mysterious, independent, detached, but those labels never fully fit. With each person he encounters, a different side of him surfaces, not because he's fake, but because he has layers that can't be expressed all at once. Like wine that tastes slightly different, depending on the drinker's palate, his essence shifts based on the energy in front of him. Some people see his humor, others see his sharp edge, and some only ever experience his silence. None of them are wrong, but none of them have the full picture. This makes him unpredictable in the best way. People can't figure out if he's reserved or outspoken, cold or warm, serious or playful. The truth is, he's all of those things at different times, depending on who earns what part of him. That's why first impressions of a Sigma are often incomplete. Someone might dismiss him as distant, only to later realize he's sharper and more engaging than they imagined. Another person might think he's approachable, only to find out he has walls they can't climb. With a Sigma, no single version is definitive. Part of this comes from his refusal to flatten himself into one identity for approval. Most people pick a character they can present consistently so they'll be easy to understand and digest. Sigma males resist that. They don't care if they're misunderstood because they aren't performing for the crowd. They allow themselves to be multifaceted without apology, which is rare in a world addicted to neat labels. And this is exactly why people find themselves thinking about him long after he's gone. They replay conversations, analyze his reactions, and wonder if they truly got him, or if they only scratched the surface. The mystery isn't a trick. It's simply the reality of someone who refuses to be one note. The Sigma male's complexity keeps him from ever going stale. No matter how many times you cross paths with him, there's always another layer you didn't expect, another angle you didn't notice before. You can't define him in a single encounter, and you can't claim to know him completely. Each experience is different, and that endless variation is what makes him unforgettable. A Sigma male is never just one thing, and that's why he's never tasted the same way twice. Number 9. They refuse to be consumed too early. A Sigma male has no interest in being consumed too early, and that's one of the sharpest differences between him and most people. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, validated, and celebrated as quickly as possible, he's content to wait. He doesn't rush to pour himself out because he knows how easy it is to get drained before your real value has even matured. Many men burn out by giving too much of themselves too soon, oversharing, overinvesting, or overperforming, only to realize they've left nothing in reserve when life truly demands it. The Sigma refuses to play that game. Instead, he withholds, not out of fear, but out of discipline. He understands timing better than most. He knows that being revealed too quickly can make you disposable, that showing all your cards up front makes you predictable, and that offering yourself cheaply almost guarantees you'll be taken for granted. By choosing to stay mysterious, restrained, and patient, he ensures that when people finally do get to experience him, they recognize he's not like everyone else. This withholding often gets him misunderstood. People may label him aloof, distant, or even arrogant, simply because he doesn't give them immediate access. But that misunderstanding is a small price to pay for keeping his essence intact. While others burn themselves out trying to impress, he preserves his energy, his insights, and his depth for the right moment and the right people. The beauty of this approach is that it makes his eventual reveal far more impactful. When a Sigma does open up, when he does share his wisdom, or when he finally lets someone in, it hits harder because it wasn't handed out cheaply. People realize quickly that his silence wasn't emptiness, it was storage. Everything he's been holding back has been maturing, deepening, and becoming more potent over time. By refusing to be consumed too early, he avoids the tragedy of being wasted prematurely. He'd rather be underestimated now than exhausted later. He's not afraid of being overlooked, because he knows patience protects him. In the long run, that patience turns him into someone far rarer and more valuable than the men who rush to spend themselves too soon. The Sigma male knows this. Anything worth having, including himself, is worth waiting for. Number 10. They get harder to replace with age. The older most people get, the more predictable they become. They settle into routines, adopt safe opinions, and conform to whatever keeps life comfortable. In the process, they lose the sharp edges that once made them interesting. But Sigma males take the opposite path. With every year, they compound their uniqueness instead of diluting it. Their independence, their lessons, their scars, and their wisdom stack layer upon layer until they've built something no one else can replicate. By the time people finally get a Sigma, they're faced with the uncomfortable truth. There's nobody else like him left. This is why he gets harder to replace with age. While others become carbon copies of one another, Sigma males become more distinct. He's lived long enough to cut through illusions, to see the patterns people repeat, and to refine himself away from the noise. That refinement makes him stand out without him even trying. It's not loud uniqueness, but a quiet difference that becomes obvious when you measure him against the conformity of everyone else. Ironically, most people don't realize his value when he's younger. His refusal to play the popularity game, his quietness, and his unwillingness to chase approval often make him easy to overlook. But as time goes on, those very traits reveal themselves as rare. When others are drained from chasing trends or broken by failed attempts to be accepted, he's still whole, maybe even sharper than before. That's when people start to recognize how irreplaceable he really is. And here's the sting. Recognition usually comes too late. People who dismissed him earlier circle back, only to find he's already moved past needing their approval. By then, the scarcity of his kind has grown so apparent that it leaves them unsettled. There simply isn't anyone else who carries the same depth, the same restraint, and the same authority that time has only strengthened in him. What makes this especially powerful is that the Sigma doesn't chase being rare. He just refuses to compromise. That refusal, compounded year after year, naturally sets him apart. And the longer he lives, the clearer it becomes that he can't be copied, replaced, or reproduced. His value doesn't just survive time, it multiplies with it. That's why by the time people finally understand him, they also realize something sobering. They won't find another like him again. Number 11, they don't chase, they let pallets adjust. Sigma males don't chase approval, affection, or recognition. They know that real value doesn't beg to be seen. It waits to be understood. Just like wine doesn't water itself down to please someone who isn't ready for it, a Sigma doesn't alter himself to fit into shallow expectations. He stays exactly as he is, and either people rise to his level and appreciate him, or they stay blind and irrelevant. That refusal to chase is what sets him apart in a world where most people are desperate to be liked. This stance can confuse and even frustrate others. People are used to being courted, persuaded, or entertained into giving their attention. They expect effort, flattery, or compromise. A Sigma gives none of that. He doesn't soften his silence, doesn't disguise his independence, and doesn't decorate his edges just to make himself easier to digest. For some, this makes him unapproachable. For others, it makes him magnetic. The difference isn't in him, it's in whether the person interacting with him has matured enough to recognize his worth. What makes this so powerful is that it weeds people out naturally. Those who are shallow, impatient, or insecure won't stick around because they can't handle the lack of pursuit. They'll mislabel him as cold or arrogant and move on. But those who are willing to grow, to sharpen themselves, and to sit with the discomfort of his silence begin to see what makes him different. They adjust their palate, and suddenly, what once felt difficult now feels unforgettable. This is why Sigma males often become more respected over time without ever chasing it. While others exhaust themselves trying to prove their value, he allows distance and patience to do the work for him. Eventually, the right people recognize that his restraint was never indifference. It was self-respect. And once they reach that point, his presence hits harder because they had to evolve to meet it. By refusing to chase, he ensures that only the people who truly see him are allowed close. That makes his relationships, his connections, and his influence stronger than anything built on cheap validation. Either you evolve enough to appreciate him, or you remain irrelevant in his world. And that, in itself, is his quiet power. Number 12. They withstand loneliness like oak. Loneliness is one of the things that breaks most people. Left on their own too long, they start to crumble. They grow restless, anxious, or desperate for any kind of connection, even if it's shallow or destructive. But Sigma males are built differently. They don't just tolerate isolation, they thrive in it. Loneliness doesn't rot them from the inside, it strengthens them, like oak strengthening the flavor of wine over time. What ruins most people is exactly what sharpens them. This resilience comes from the way they view solitude. To them, being alone isn't a punishment. It's a workshop. It's where they refine their thoughts, test their limits, and strip away all the noise of the world. Instead of running from silence, they lean into it, and over time it shapes them into men with more depth, more patience, and more clarity than anyone who constantly hides behind company. The difference is stark. Where others use people as distractions from their own emptiness, Sigma males confront that emptiness head-on. They don't need constant validation or entertainment because they've built an inner world that can sustain them. That's why they're so difficult to manipulate. You can't threaten someone with loneliness when he's already mastered it. This ability unsettles others, especially those who depend on external approval to survive. People often wonder how a Sigma can disappear for weeks, months, or even years and come back sharper than before. The secret is that isolation doesn't deplete him. It matures him. Every season of solitude makes him more self-reliant, more composed, and more formidable when he finally returns. And that's the paradox of the Sigma male. The very thing that destroys most men, being cut off, ignored, left out, turns him into something rare. Loneliness doesn't make him desperate. It doesn't make him weak. It builds him into a presence that carries more weight than those who can't stand a single day without attention. Like oak-shaping wine, solitude leaves its mark on him, but instead of breaking him, it deepens him. By the time the world finally notices, it's too late to replicate what he's become. He's proof that loneliness isn't always a curse, it's a crucible. And for Sigma males, it's the element that transforms them into something unforgettable. Like a rare wine that refuses shortcuts, the Sigma male is proof that value isn't found in instant gratification, cheap validation, or fleeting attention. His strength lies in patience, in the quiet work of becoming, in the deliberate choice to mature instead of perform. Where others burn out chasing relevance, he endures. Where most crumble in loneliness, he grows. Where many dilute themselves to fit in, he stays rare, uncompromised, and unforgettable. The Sigma's life isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the one who still matters when the noise dies down. He ages into calmness instead of bitterness, turns pain into power instead of scars, and builds relationships that outlast the shallow pairings others settle for. His energy isn't consumed by the party. It outlasts it, becoming more magnetic the longer time tests him. That's the wine effect. The Sigma male doesn't just survive the years, he improves with them. Every season of solitude, every trial, every rejection deepens him, turning him into something scarce and irreplaceable. By the time the world catches on, he's already mastered the art of lasting impact. If you found value in this, don't just scroll away. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next drop of insight. Hit that like button if this resonated with you, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective. And of course, share this video with someone who needs to understand the Sigma mindset. Your support keeps this community growing, and together we'll keep uncovering the truths that others overlook.